The current season of the English Premier League has become a complete failure for Tottenham. Not long ago, the team was fighting for high places in the Premier League and reached the Champions League final. But today, it is no longer possible to talk about past success, since the Spurs settled in 16th place and, along with Manchester United, became the main losers of the season. Although a few years ago it seemed that Tottenham was just one step away from joining the elite teams, and the appearance of a new stadium only added confidence that the club was ready to reach a new level, all dreams were quickly shattered by harsh reality. Now disappointment is in the air of a luxurious stadium that was built with ambitions for great success, but unfortunately not realized. Of course, the root of the problems lies in the past, where chances were missed, management miscalculations, and failed transfers that ultimately dragged the club into a funnel of deep crisis. Root for your favorite in the summer of 2019. Tottenham was one step away from greatness. Reaching the Champions League final seemed like a harbinger of great success, but despite the defeat by Liverpool, the team almost looked mature and ready for the next step. However, it was at this moment that the process of the future crisis began. The club's management, led by Daniel Levy, stubbornly ignored the words of the head coach, almost demanded reinforcements, hinting that a beautiful house should have good furniture, but instead, Levy was concerned about the payback of the new stadium, and the main emphasis was placed on the profitability of the entire project as a whole. Subsequent transfer campaigns became the embodiment of chaos and lack of strategy. Yes, money was spent, and a lot of it, for example, on Solanke, Richarlison, Ndombele, having spent a total of more than 180 million euros, but these signings did not come close to justifying the investment. Money players, acquired for leading roles, could not cope with the pressure and did not give the desired result. Subsequently, quick attempts to sell or lease unnecessary assets became another confirmation of the failure of the club's transfer policy. After the departure of Pochettino, an era of instability and lack of control began. Jose Mourinho turned out to be the person who was able to bring the team to a new level and finally lay the foundation for the mentality of an elite team, but a series of crises and constant scandals very quickly destroyed all expectations. Despite reaching the final of the League Cup, the Portuguese was dismissed and was never able to win the long-awaited trophy with the team. He was replaced by Nuno Espirito Santo, who lasted less than a year at the helm of the team and ingloriously left his post. Later, the team was headed by Antonio Conte, who became the only coach after Pochettino who managed to bring Spurs to the Champions League. But his ambitions directly became a problem at one of the press conferences. The Italian, without choosing words, criticized the players and the club's management, and also noted the lack of a champion mentality, which greatly hindered the fight for big trophies. Eventually falling out of favor with the club's management, the inconvenient Conte was shown the door, which once again confirmed the thoughtlessness of the owner's decisions. In the end, the constant change of coaches, each of whom demanded players to suit their philosophy, created chaos within the club, which, due to the lack of a strategy, became a victim of its own decisions. In the summer of 2023, Harry Kane left the club, not just the captain, but the team's top scorer, a symbol of the team. His move to Bayern was a logical step, given the player's desire for trophies, which he never managed to win as part of Spurs. His departure turned out to be fatal for the team, since there was no figure capable of not only scoring goals but also leading his partners. As a result, the void that Kane left behind turned out to be too huge, which further plunged the long-suffering Tottenham into a swamp of constant problems. Postecoglou's appointment in the summer of 2023 was perceived as a breath of fresh air. The Australian quickly made fans fall in love with him with his charisma and attacking style of football. In addition, the start of the season looked promising, with bright victories over Liverpool and Manchester United restoring fans' faith in their home club. But after a confident start, a series of injuries followed, and, as a result, Spurs finished the season in 5th place, just one step away from the Champions League zone. Before the start of the current season, it seemed that Tottenham had finally found their coach, and, given the mistakes of last season, the team was ready to take the next step. However, in reality, everything turned out differently. Spurs began to show their instability from the first rounds and alternated bright matches with offensive defeats. In addition, a large number of injuries to the main squad players were added, which further worsened the team's situation. As the season progressed, gradually, the amount of contradictions and offensive defeats began to create not only doubts, but also divisions within the team. Young players could not cope with the pressure. Veterans lost motivation, and the atmosphere inside the locker room reached a boiling point. In interviews, players openly began to criticize not only the coach, but also their partners, while the coach stubbornly abandoned pragmatic football and continued to bend his line, remaining faithful to the attacking style, which ultimately led the team to a shameful series of humiliating defeats. In interviews, the coach diplomatically does not openly criticize the club's management. At press conferences, he limits himself to phrases like "the players need time" or "the club is working to solve the problems." And in this situation, Postecoglou is very convenient for the management because, unlike his predecessors, he does not take sides, keeps a low profile, and does not reveal the layers of problems that have accumulated in huge numbers in recent years. Perhaps for this reason, he manages to keep his post despite the humiliating 16th place to remain at the helm of the team. But the fans are already tired of watching the gradual degradation of the club, and they began to openly protest against Levy. In an instant, he turned from a man who built one of the best stadiums in England into a symbol of a management crisis. Fans accuse him of lacking a strategy, mainly focusing on commercial profit. In fairness, it is difficult to disagree with these words, since Levy's management style is more reminiscent of a business project in which everything is aimed at profit and cost optimization. But a football club is not only money and financial success, it is also big victories and trophies. So, in my opinion, this is where Tottenham's problems lie. They never succeeded in finding a model in which sporting and financial success would create a balance for the development of the club. Recently, on air at Sky Sports, Henry spoke sharply about Spurs. What is the philosophy of this club? When I played at Arsenal, Tottenham fans lived with hostility towards us, but I believe that, first of all, you need to think about yourself. The joy of our failures is not a strategy. What is your goal? Stadium, finances, but what about victories and titles? Or are you not interested in such categories in sports at all? Personally, for me, Spurs remind me of a teenager who has a lot of desire but no opportunity to implement them. Certainly, this season, the club has reached its bottom, and the search for easy ways to solve complex problems only aggravates the club's position.